standing straight, unfolding your arms, looking interested, turning towards someone when you speak. There's a lot of meaning that comes from that. Successful communication does not always mean shared understanding. So white lies, sparing feelings, avoidance, that can actually help with communication, but too much of that is obviously not a good thing. Communication will not solve all problems. Effective communicators, that's communication competence, involves achieving one's goals in a manner that maintains or enhances the relationship. Effective and appropriate communication. There's a spectrum. It's high achieving business person who steps on toes is one side of the spectrum, versus the kind and gracious one who doesn't stand up for themselves. Two ends of the spectrum. You want to find a middle ground. There's no ideal way of communicating. There's a variety of communication styles that can be effective. It's important to use your own style and values. As we're getting into this semester, you guys, there's no way I'm going to say the way you communicate or your intrinsic self, especially the shyness that some people have. We all just have a certain way about us. I feel like we're born with it, biological factors. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a matter of having to learn to live in the world we have the way it is. Figuring out what you want to do for a living, for example, and how to get there. If you're painfully shy, you've still got to go through the interview process. So you've got to figure out how to be effective in that. If you're really, really outgoing and boisterous, and you have figured out that sometimes you can be off-putting to people, toning that down during an interview is always a good idea. Finding that middle ground. Situational, there are degrees or areas of competence. And that's true too. Situational. Public speaking was a nasty area for me. Just making a video like this would have absolutely terrified me 10 years ago. But I think social media has helped a lot of people in this area. We've learned how to do this a little bit better. Biology obviously plays a part, being agreeable and conscientious, but skills can be learned. For example, I had a sales rep. It was an inside sales rep that I was managing, who would call and ask about a sale that was going on with ads, and immediately hang up and say, "Oh, they said no." And I said, I need you to continue the conversation until you hear no 3 times. And I think you're automatically going to see your sales numbers go up. And she was actually shocked at the spike in sales numbers because she stopped just hanging up. She continued the conversation, made lots more sales. For example, so, she's agreeable. She's very conscientious. She's taking people's word and hanging up, but learned a new skill. And in that she wasn't pushy. She didn't get to be less considerate with people, but her numbers went up. Through education and training, competency can be developed. Page 21 is about handling conflict and the options therein. Consider context, goals, knowledge of the other person. Skill at performing behaviors effectively. If you look at page 1.3, page 24, figure 1.3, the skill at performing behaviors effectively. There's cognitive complexity. Seeing issues from several angles prevents misunderstandings and overreaction. This goes to emotional intelligence, which we're really going to dive into this semester. I have a heavy focus on emotional intelligence in this class. We'll get into that more. Empathy is the most important aspect of communication competence, getting a feel for how others view the world. So it's not sympathy, it's not sympathizing with empathy, it's just understanding their viewpoints. So asking questions, finding out where they're coming from, checking in assumptions for yourself and for them. There's no cookie cutter for people. Self-monitoring, observe your own behavior from a detached viewpoint. It helps to judge others' emotional states. Remember information about others. Let people that are less shy, people that are more assertive, that sort of thing. Poor communicators are blissfully ignorant of their shortcomings and overestimate their skill. This is true for all of us at some aspect. Everyone needs to work on some skill or trait in their communication process. Poor communicators are blissfully ignorant of their shortcomings and overestimate their skill. You can simply ask, how am I doing? That leads to changing behavior as needed. Self-awareness, self-monitoring, self-control leads to greater success, both personally and professionally. Commitment, people who care about qualitative relationships. Showing concern for the other person, willingness to listen carefully and not rush, not talk over them, openness to change after hearing their viewpoints, caring about the message. Competency is a state we achieve. Guys, communication is lifelong. It's lifelong learning. Having a history, people lived and died within a few miles of where they were born. This is historically. Now there's like a global village, different backgrounds, different communication styles. We have had to learn to adjust. If you haven't learned to adjust, you need to. Communication competence in one culture could easily equal ineptitude or offensive behavior in another. There are some cultures where you wouldn't shake someone's hand, and actually I think we're turning into a culture where you just wouldn't shake someone's hand. They could be sick. And this is cultural too. If you look at these things, belching and nudity, more subtle examples could be just self-disclosing, speaking assertively. In some cultures, this is really offensive. In Asian cultures, subtlety and indirectness are really, really important. They're crucial. Here, it's not effective. People don't appreciate that. One study showed, well, I'm going to go back for a second. Co-cultures within a single society, different things are considered appropriate, essentially, and you have to be aware of those things. If you're not aware, ask questions, figure it out. Just observe, even. Sometimes asking questions isn't appropriate, so observe people's behavior, see what's appropriate to them. An example is Latinos value relational support. African Americans respect and acceptance. Asian Americans is caring and positive exchange of ideas, and the Anglo-Saxon communities, individuality. Age, occupation, sexual orientation, physical disability, religion, activity all play roles in communication. Even differences between men and women. So many different dimensions of culture, co-cultures, age, occupation, sexual orientation, physical disability, religion, hobbies. Self-deprecating humor will not be appreciated in many cultures. Also the negative self-talk that goes with that.